Welcome back to MNPA Geography. We're continuing our lesson with 3.2, Study 2 on governments. Governments. The world is divided into political units. The main political units in our world are sovereign nation states. There are over 200 nation states in the world today, each with its own government that rules a particular territory. Not all nation states have the same form of government. People have used many different systems of governments throughout the course of human history. When studying government, it's helpful to group them into categories. One way is to focus on how many of the state's citizens hold political power. Other categories focus on how much power the government has or how the government claims legitimacy. Autocracy. The simplest form of government is when there's only one ruler. This is known as an autocracy. In an autocracy, the government's power is held in a single person's hand, known as the autocrat. The autocrat is the absolute ruler of the country. Autocrats don't have to argue for a cause or consult anyone on decisions, they simply command. This type of government includes both monarchies and dictatorships. Autocracy has been a common form of government throughout human history, and although it might not sound pleasant to live in one, several still exist today, and not all of them are negative. Sometimes we automatically think that an autocrat might be a dictator or might be a negative form of government, but that's not always the case. Oligarchy. Another common form of government is the oligarchy. In an oligarchy, a small group of people hold the political power among themselves. And an aristocracy is one type of oligarchy where people with inherited titles of nobility hold power. So this would be a set of nobles that pass it down from generation to generation that all rule together. Another form of oligarchy exists in countries with a single-party rule. In a single-party state, only members of one official political party may hold political office. Single-party states, one single-party rule typically exists in communist countries, where only members of the official Communist Party may hold political office. In such a case, the government and the parties are more or less the same. Vietnam and China are examples of states with a single-party communist rule. Although in theory, single-party rule is a form of oligarchy, in practice, single-party state usually functions as an autocracy. In single-party countries, the head of the ruling party generally holds all the party, and the political power is an autocracy. The power of Kim Jong-il I think this one is Kim Jong II. In North Korea is an example of a single-party government that functions as an autocracy. Although North Korea officially has a single-party system, Kim Jong controls the Communist Party and gives him an autocratic control over the government. Communism and single-party rule go hand in hand, but single-party rule exists in more than just communist countries. For example, Syria, officially the Syrian Arab Republic, and Ba'ath Party is the only party legally allowed to run candidates for election. The rule of the people. Both autocracies and oligarchies limit citizens' access to political power. They often involve severe repression, and they certainly exclude people with different viewpoints and conflicting political aims. People throughout human history have opposed autocracies and oligarchies in various forms. As a result, there has been a rise in the final type of government, a democracy. Democracy is a familiar word, but it can be hard to define. Many people associate democracy as the majority rule or personal freedom. While these are aspects of democratic systems, the word itself has less specific meaning. It derives from Greek words for people, demos, and rule, kratos. Democracy literally means the rule of the people, indicating that everyone in a nation, not a single individual or a limited group, has a share in political power. Anarchy and failed states. You've seen the different forms of political power, but what if there's no power at all? When there are no laws or government power, it's known as anarchy. Anarchy exists when no one has the power to make and enforce laws. While this situation can occur from time to time, especially during major political disturbances, anarchy is usually short-lived because usually somebody's going to rise to power and take over in that existence of no leadership. Although it's uncommon, anarchy is always lurking around the corner. It can break out whenever a government power fails as a result of civil war or other severe political breakdowns. The world has several failed states where anarchy is more or less the rule of the day. In these countries, there is some kind of central government, but it doesn't exercise a monopoly over the legitimate use of force, usually because of violent factions such as warlords, militias, or terrorist organizations. These factions compete to establish their own legitimate government authority. Somalia is one example of a failed state where factions have been fighting since Somalia gained independence in 1960. The Transitional Federal Government, the TFG, is the central government of Somalia today, although that government is weak and not recognized by many of the factions in the country. There's really not much, there pretty much isn't a scarier thing than an anarchy failed state in the world, because if a terrorist group or organization can rise to power and take over and become the majority power holders in that country, it can mean destruction for all the surrounding countries near it, or, in the term of a nuclear age, it could mean destruction for the world. So as a power country, we try to limit and help and prevent failed states and anarchy when we see that start to rise.